after you stop the treatment in the 15th visit, it continued to heal, and when you come back 26 weeks later, there's only a reddening, and there's no more scar. And give it another 2 weeks, it'll be gone. Healing with no scarring. Now, in case that's not compelling enough, here's a post-surgical application. So surgery can take an hour or two, but the healing could take time. So here, you can see the redness in here. That is infection beginning to take place, which is very common in surgery. They use LumiHeal. Just use it for 6 weeks, twice a week, or maybe 7 weeks, and that's it. 6 months later, they come back, and there's healing with no scarring, and perfect healing because the genes will say, "Do you remember how you're supposed to lay it?"
Yes.
See, so there's no complication.
Yeah.
Now, this one is a biggie. It's in the breast journal, and if I move the thing, it's in the breast journal, and it talks of this patient that has breast cancer, and so what happened is during the surgery to remove the cancer, she developed MRSA. You can Google what MRSA is. It is an infection that is very resistant to any form of antibiotic. Okay. They used everything on her. They threw everything, including the kitchen sink at her, as they say. And it wasn't healing, so they have to stop the chemotherapy. But the cancer is aggressive and it's growing back, and she could die. So on the 27th of January, they put LumiHeal on both breasts, and they shine the light on it. By the 15th of March, that's 1 month and a week later, or 2 weeks later, complete healing. And now they do chemotherapy, the cancer is gone. Can you see that? So, can leg ulcers. Now, here's a boy with leukemia. Leukemia, you don't have enough white blood vessels, so healing is slow. So, what happened is 14 days later, look at the size of it. Even for leukemia patient, and then there's a boy with a wound, and within a couple of months, complete healing, and it's already drying up, and then after complete. Now, this is a 3rd-degree burn. Remember I told you healing with no scarring? There's no skin graft involved. In the first slide, you can see it's all burnt out, including a big wound. You put the gel on, you shine the light. On the 11th treatment, if you look at 2 treatments a week, that's 6 weeks. It's 12 treatments. Yeah, complete healing. But notice the hair is growing back.
No scars.
Because the genes say, how did you used to look like before the burn? Now, what if you're a surgeon and you're very good in skin grafting and you spent 10 years learning it? You don't want to be out of a job. So you want to do skin grafting, even though LumiHeal says you don't need skin grafting.
Yeah.
So here's an example with skin grafting. So they clean the wound using LumiHeal. And then they put the skin on the mesh, and they put LumiHeal to make it grow back faster. In 10 days, compare this to the beginning.
Wow.
10 days. Makes the doctor look good. In some negative pressure wound, normally you can't heal this. They'll say it's too difficult, just chop the leg off. But you put LumiHeal, you put the leg back together, it'll start growing back. This one, the skin is gone. Okay? But under LumiHeal, it works. So can you see how powerful? Now, what is true for humans is true for animals. So they develop a product for animals. Now, but let me tell you a joke, okay? I asked Dr. Bellini. I say, hey, Dr. Bellini, I'm stuck in a jungle in Malaysia. I cut my leg on some terrible sort of poisonous weed. and there's an infection. I don't have Lumiheal. I only have my wife's beauty product, Kaleska. Can I use it? Should I use it? He says use it.
The same.
The product still costs the same to make. They all cost $2-3 to make. If you do it in Sweden and Norway, it'll cost you $7. You do it in Singapore, Malaysia, it'll be $1-2. So what happened is this. When they sell the Kaleska, they sell it for $20-30. With the Lumiheal, they didn't put a price. They give it to the hospital. They just tell the hospital, pay me what you think is fair. And the hospital had been paying $50 US to $50 euro for the same thing. It still costs the same to make. So that's the price of Lumiheal. Now, Povias for dogs is really amazing. In fact, I will send Gordon a picture of a horse being treated with it. Okay, it's amazing. So anyway, there's lots of stuff. Now, your teeth. Do you know what periodontitis is? Okay. Periodontitis is the separation of your gum from your teeth. Okay? Let Mr. Google.
A lot of people suffer from that. A lot of people suffer.
Now, how many people suffer from periodontitis? Half of American adults.
Yeah, I was just listening to some radio program from Ghana yesterday, and they were discussing this.
Yeah. And so what happened is this. Half of the adults suffer from periodontitis, and there's no cure. Okay? And, you can talk to doctors and so on. Gingivitis leads to periodontitis, but there's no cure for periodontitis. So, what happened is that with Lumiheal, easy. You put the Lumiheal on, you have a miniature torch, really tiny, you shine the light, and it heals. But you know what? One of the big companies says, hey, maybe we make electric toothbrush with light. And we put the gel in the toothpaste and ask them to brush their gums. And the gums become stronger. It gets rid of gingivitis. It gets rid of periodontitis. And it gets rid of bad breath.
Yeah.
Because it kills the germs.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the company thinks, but we sell mouthwash and that costs billions of dollars. So they say, I don't want to know your product. See?
They will be wiped out completely. Yes.
The mouthwash market, they'll be thrown away. But anyway, so rare diseases. Okay? Now, what is epidermolysis bullosa? It's a genetic disease rooted by the failure of the dermis and epidermis to anchor. Any form of mechanical trauma and they blister. So if you hit a person on the back, the skin will fall off. In Europe, they have a foundation called Butterfly Children for children who suffer from this terrible, terrible genetic condition. It's very painful and there's no cure. But guess what? Within 7 visits, it goes away. Using the technology. Can you see that? Now, this is a question. Epidermolysis bullosa is a genetic disease. So the genes are screwed. How come there's healing? The answer is once the light shines on the genes will look at themselves in the mirror and says, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
We better change the way we work. And healing happens.
Wow.
Because in the Bible it says, under the light, everything becomes corrupt. This is the light from God. So, you can see, and then of course, for business, sometimes you got to do what people want, right? Injectables is a huge market. We're talking billions of dollars every year spent on injectables. Some women got no cheekbone, they want high cheekbone. Some women want the face or the shape to change, so they use injectable. But the injectable doesn't last long. After 1 month, 2 months, it sags.
Mhm.
So we develop a product to go with injectable. Once they inject it in, you shine the light on, the whole face glow, and it stimulates collagen production.
Wow.
And it lasts longer. It keeps the shape better.
Mm.
And injectable market is like $5-6 billion a year market. So
Wow.
that is the technology. Now, what happened is this, okay? When I was with Dr. Bellini, he asked me a question. He says to me, I've been offered $200 million to market my product globally. Okay? And he says, because he's doing it a country at a time, and you got to understand that he spent 100 million of his own money to develop the product. So now he's just marketing it bit by bit because he's, like all human beings, he does not spend too much money. So this company says, look, while you're healing people, right now it's only in Italy and Germany is starting. People are losing their legs. So you should allow us to expand the market globally. And so what happened is I say to them, I think they're right. Because while you are healing Italians, people in the Middle East and Africa is losing their legs. So let us do something about it. And so what happened is this. And by the way, the global market for the product is very big. Just the 6 products that you see, every year, you're looking at $34 billion in value.
Mm.
And this is actually only the United States and Europe. The rest of the world, they don't even estimate. And clocks reckon that they might capture 2.5 to 4% of the market. So what happened is I say to them, well, if the big company is offering you 200 million to market it globally, you should take it. He said, oh, but they want to own 51% of my company right now. What should I do? I said, don't sell it. Because why? In 5 to 6 years' time, you'll be earning $3 billion a year. Your company is worth $30 billion or $60 billion. And it will keep increasing and increasing.
Mm.
So I use that opportunity to create the best deal in the world. You know what the deal is, Emmanuel?
I'm eager to know.
Okay. I said to Dr. Bellini, I am going to organize 200 million for you without you giving any shares away. And I'll have the happiest investors in the world.
Mm.
He says, how do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you do that? So I said to Dr. Bellini, it hinges on 3 principles in the Bible. So the first one is I say, when I give you $200 million, first of all, I expect you to pay me 3% interest every year because I get that in the bank, right? That's fair. I mean, you got to give me what I can get in the market. But the 3 principle is, number 1, God is a God of multiplication. So if I give you $200 million,
Multiply.
can I multiply that 3 times, 2.75 times, 2.5 times, 2.25 times, or 2 times, depends on when the money comes in. So the average is 2.5 times. So I give you 200 million, I want $500 million back. He says, not a problem because I'm going to earn billions of dollars, so it's not a problem. It's just like my story of Matthew. And then he said, what's the next scripture? I said, the next scripture is to be the greatest, you must be the servant to all.
Oh, yeah.
You must be the servant to the
everybody.
investors. He says, how do I become the servant? I said, very easy. You work hard. Every year, whatever money you earn, you use 70% and you pay us back first as a priority.
Okay.
and you use the 30%, so we're talking 70% before tax. You pay us first, and then using the 30%, you pay tax and you be a happy boy. In other words, you don't party till we finish partying. And I want the 70% not just for my capital, but my capital and the multiple. So if I give you $10 million, I want 30 million back, and I want you to use 70% to pay me 30 million first.
Okay.
Are you happy with it? He says, I'm happy with it. And then he says, I asked him a question. Based on your conservative feasibility, where you only capture 2.5% to 3% of the market, right? Or 4% of the market, how many years, and only using United States and Europe, excluding the rest of the world. In his world, the people in Asia, Middle East, doesn't count. So, my question is, how long before I get my 500 million? And so, based on his numbers, if he used 70% to pay me first, we will get all our money back within 5 years, maybe 6 years at the latest.
That is for only the 4%.
That is only assuming that the whole world consists of America and a few European countries at 2 to 4% capture of the market, which I told him is stupid, because if I've got a wound that hasn't healed for 1 year and I know that your product heals, I won't be one of the 96% who never go for treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're talking 100% healing, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Let the numbers be conservative. Now, what happened is this. When you look at it, when you look at this, what we are doing is, I say, based on your feasibility, within 5 to 6 years, we triple our money. And then he asked me, what is the last scripture? I say, in the Bible, there's a story of 2 women whose oil never run dry.
Yeah.
So one of them, you remember, they keep pouring the oil and keep pouring the oil. And the other one, there was a famine. And the man of God goes to her place, and she's got a bit of oil and a bit of flour. And she was about to eat a cake and die, but instead, she gave it to the man of God. And it says in the Bible, her oil never run dry. And he says, how do I apply this to my business? I say, very simple. After you have tripled my money, or double my money, altogether 2.5 times, from the day onwards, every year, you give me 1% of the global sales of the company, minus the cost of production and nothing else. 1%. And his son said, ooh, this is a big hit, Dad. And the father says, hey, what's the problem? If we make $3.2 billion, we give $32 million, we still got 3.1 something billion dollars. That's a lot of money we have. Let's do it. Let's do it. And then I asked him, I said, Dr. Bellini, when you pay us out, and then you're taking $3 billion, what are you going to do with the money? Because this is 1 year, every year. So he said, oh, I'm an old man, I'm 70 years old, I want to use it to do research to find more cure. I said, yeah, but how much can you spend on research? You can't spend $3 billion on research. You can't employ enough people, too many people. He says, you're right, maybe we spend 5-10% on research. I said, what else are you going to do with the money? He says, we'll have some dividends. I said, but how much will you take? You don't need so much money. So he says, yes, you're right. Maybe I use it to buy other companies. I said, So in other words, instead of giving the exclusive rights to Oral-B to make the toothbrush with the lights, you buy Oral-B. And all the business that they've been doing comes in.
Oh my God. Think big.
Then I asked Dr. Bellini, can I have 1% of the global sales of Oral-B? And other companies you buy. You buy Panadol, I want 1% of it. So he agreed. He says, I will give you 1% of our share. In case they only buy half the company, the 1% of global sales, their share will pass to us. In perpetuity. What is in perpetuity? It's forever and ever. even when Jesus comes back,